Hello, my name is Stephanie Toman, and this video bite size will cover an area of the accredited ICDL Advanced Word Processing qualification using Word 2016, but you can obviously, as I've said before in previous videos, if you've watched them, 365 is absolutely fine as well. If you also have to have a look at this for other reasons, please use it. It doesn't always have to be against accredited qualifications. It can be used for assignments, dissertations, long documents, whatever we want to call them, and also in work. So what we're going to cover this one is a really important area with regard to doing long documents, is because it's going to be looking at styles, and styles, as you may or may not know, need to be used in a long document. I'm talking about a dissertation or a report. So you need to use these in order to access all of the automated features, for example, table of contents, table of tables, etc. It's also going to look at some multiple level lists, which can be quite useful if you get into a tricky area using these and you want to troubleshoot it or change it, etc. Also connected up to long documents. Hope you enjoy.
Let's open up styles, number 2. So styles need to be used in documents. I'll just bring this up a little bit so you can see. And they're there for lots of different reasons. So if you don't use styles, if you just type up a document and change the headings yourself manually, then you can't then go on to use automated features. So things like table of contents, they contain styles. So that's what they're picking up and they're automatically created are styles. So styles can be created from scratch. As long as you bring them in and use them correctly, then other features, like as I said, table of contents would be one, can be used automatically. We'll see that later. In the exam, what they'll be looking at, the syllabus area, is creating one, modifying existing one, and what they call update a style name, whatever that style name is, to match selection. So there's 3 areas that it's looking at. So first of all, let's bring up the styles. So you've got this little launcher here, and you can bring up the styles this way: preview, manage, and customize text styles in Word. So it's this like little window. So if we just look at this document for a moment, if I point at the history of Topperville heading, it's got a title head style, and if you hover on it, it'll tell you all the different formatting that's been applied to that style. If I point at the background style, it's a para head, and if I drop that down, there are 6 instances of it throughout the document. Now I click that, it will select them all. So that's the beauty of styles. It's not just having them to do one thing. If you were going to change all of them, you can pick all of them, all of those instances together and apply something different, which could come into the modifier. And the final one is to actually create something yourself in the existing document. We're going to change this to something else and then get a style within here to match it. Okay, so an existing style that's built into the system to match that. Okay, so let's do the first one. Let's create a style. So let's say the text style, it's called text at the moment. Let's make this body. Okay, so I'm going to highlight it or click in it. You have to be in the area because when you create a style, whatever you create applies automatically to where your cursor is. So let's try clicking in it first. Here's your create new style button just here. Brings up a dialog box. We've got a name, so let's call it body, the body text. Be really careful on this style type area because they could change them or ask you to change them in the exam. The paragraph style is the main one, it's the priority one. It's very old RSA language, but you can have character styles as well as paragraph. So make sure if they ask you to create a character style, you change it. Otherwise, we'll stick to paragraph. These rarely change because they're usually based on something quite similar. Then you can keep it as it is. I'm going to change it just to red, just so that we can see it happen. You can see the change here. If you wanted to go for further things, you can go through this way, and we'll do that when we use the modify. So I'm just going to create that style, and I'm going to be OK. It's called body. So if I highlight that and click body, I could then, all the way through, I could use my control key, and I could highlight different areas, and I could use the body and do that. So I can apply it. Okay, so I've applied my new created style. Okay, the second part is the modify. So let's say we wanted to modify this background, these subheadings, if you like, or chapter headings. Let's call them chapter headings. I know they're not massive chapters. So these are chapter headings, and we want to change them to numbered. We've been looking through our dissertation rules and regs, and it says it wants them numbered. So that's the formatting it's expecting from our particular school or faculty. So remember, like before, I highlighted the first one, went into the actual para head, and clicked on the side drop-down arrow, and then you can get to the modify. You can get to this in many ways. If you're used to using this, you do right clicks and all sorts, so it's up to you how you do that. But first of all, before I modify it, I'm going to select all instances. Remember, click on there and select all instances. And that way, when I modify it now, I can do it to all of them. So I've clicked, all the instances have been selected, click on modify. And then what I'm going to do is I'm keeping all the same information, but I'm going to go through this formatting area, and I'm going into the numbering. So it's going up to here again, through the feature into the ribbon. And I'm going to put numbers 1, 2, in fact I might put them with brackets because they look better. I'm going to use the numbered aligned left, okay, brackets. Then I OK, I can see the sample there, or example, OK again, and they're all done in a quick movement there. Okay, really quick, useful. The final thing that we can do is I can actually change this heading. Let's put it in red. Let's change it into Arial black, up it a bit to size 20. And then I'm going to make sure this has that applied to it. So I've got that highlighted, I've made the changes, I drop down on the title head, and I update title head to match selection. And you can see that how that tallies with this. So that's the way that the question will be asked. It'll be asking you to make some changes, not modify, make some changes to a particular style, then update a style in there. It could be heading 1. They may ask you to do heading 1 or heading 2, heading 3, it doesn't really matter, and update a particular style name to match your selection or that selection. So there's the 3 areas: create, modify, and update. I'll just do the modify one more time, just so you're clear. So we highlighted the first one, we dropped it down, we picked up all instances. This time I'm going to take the numbering off, into the modify, into the format, numbering, back to none, OK, OK, and they're back to where they were. Okay, so that's styles, create, modify, and update style to match. I'm not going to save that. The next area is multi-level. So let's just click on this, number 3, open this up. This is the final bit in this area. Okay, styles for numbered bulleted numbered lists can be created and contain up to 9 levels. Okay, so multi-level is a little bit like before. We would have just used the bullets, or we just use the numbering, and they're quite straightforward. However, now we're getting a little bit more complicated. You can see here you can change set number values. So if I highlight the text, people when they're asked to do things to bullets tend to try and highlight the numbering or the characters. Make sure it's the text you're highlighting. You can do a set numbering value change on a right click, but if you don't want to, if you forget, if you go to the side of what's lit up, you see the numbering is lit up, go to there, and then you can set the numbering value that way. And you can make it start at 2. This is what we're changing here. 3. Okay. So pretty straightforward. You can also, if you go onto the drop down on there, you've got what you can't change list level, but we want to look at the defined new number format, which we're going to look in the next one as well. So you could change that to starting at upper Roman numerals instead and change it like that. So there's lots of ways you can change that straightforward numbering in here. But next to that, we have what they call the multi-level list numbering. Okay, that's what we're going to move on to next. So here you've got your 1.1, 1.2, etc. So if we highlight the text, like I said before, and we can go to this here, we can do the define number format, or we can go into here and define multi-level lists. So let's look at that define multi-level lists. By defining multi-level lists, we can make the first one, I know it says lower here, but let's make it upper. You could make the first one upper Roman. That's the 2, the first number. The second level, we could make lower Roman numerals. The third level, we can make a lower ABC and then OK. And you can see how it can change. And then if we click in here and we add in something and we tab, we can then make it, the different levels start to kick in. OK, so that's multi-levels. This one is changing list level, which we looked at last time. So we're going into the multi-level lists, and you've got your change list level here. And you could change them into headings. So we can have, instead of numbering, because we've got different levels going on, we could go heading. And these will automatically, if you use that feature, even in your dissertations, it's a really quick way if you don't want to get into your own headings, creating your own headings, etc. It's a quick way of using the built-in headings that are in the system. And as you can see, if you click on there and you click on the headings here, let's launch her in. We click on the first one, it's heading 1, second heading 2, heading 3, and heading 4. And then what you could do, if you really wanted to, you could make life easy and modify those, or you could just stick with them in your document. So that's a really quick way of bringing them in. This one here, I'm just going to undo that a little bit, so I'm going to bring this up. Oops. Onto one page. Take these out. Okay, this is a typical test question. It's about setting the numbering value at 2 from the text 2.4 to 2.5 so that it ends in 2.3. This is a very simplistic one, but in the exam you may have quite a lot of levels like this and even more, and you are going between there, and so it will give you particulars. And this is doing the same, but it's very simplistic. So the key, as I've highlighted the red, you can probably guess why, is to change that. So when you do a right click on that to set in the number values, it's the second level it's talking about, not the first. So it's starting at 4 and you want it to go down to a 2 because it's got a 1 there, and you want a 2, and then you want it to end on 3. So do a set value for 2, and then it will fit the question. So keep your head, think about it, think about what you're changing, only highlight that and make the set numbering value meet that requirement. So play around with those, they're really worth playing with, and in the real world you'll start to get an understanding how you can do your level lists. There's a demo in here of the widows and orphans for revision and pagination, so it shows what it affects and how it affects depending on which feature you would use, and that's just the widows and orphans on, nothing on at all. Okay, and then it's the paragraph in. So that's there. And then if we come out, I'm going to do the next video on document setups and tables. So I'm going to leave that one there and I'll carry on.